Now, back to the Morning Report with Jay Harper on WQSC, AM 1340 and AM 950. The Voice.
It's a lovely low-country morning. Beautiful 66 degrees as we get our Monday started. The weather shaping up pretty nicely for the next several days. Chance of rain coming in on Thursday. But up to then, looking mighty nice. Tomorrow looks to be a beautiful day for Election Day in Berkeley County. We come to a head here on the GOP side of things with the Berkeley County Sheriff's race, the Republican nomination runoff happening tomorrow. Friday, we spoke with one of the candidates, Dwayne Lewis. This morning, we're fortunate enough that Brian Adams is kind enough. I'm sure, Mr. Adams, it's getting down to business, serious business here. I'm sure you're quite a busy man. We appreciate you joining us this morning.
Well, thank you for having me. It has been busy.
Yeah, I can well imagine. You know, it's been, just 2 weeks between elections here. Is from a campaign standpoint, is that good or bad?
Well, no, I think it's good. You know, it's really going to be up to the candidates and see how they get out there and see how hard and how important it is to them and what they do to get out there and try and push our message to get people out to vote.
Well, and I guess that's kind of the heart of my question is that if you weren't able to maybe get the message out there as in-depth and completely as you had hoped before the April 21st election, do you really have enough time to hammer home a message in a mere 2 weeks?
Well, it's really hard. What you have to do is I got back out there and retouched with most of my base, and whether I talked to them on the phone or between the primary and today, we've almost touched 3,000 doors. So my team really worked hard in getting back out there again and getting everybody motivated.
So it sounds like a grassroots effort is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
For those that are maybe not all that familiar, you know, we've got a lot of people. The growth in the low country is undeniable. Berkeley County's certainly no exception, with rumors of Volvo perhaps coming to town and, of course, all that Boeing is doing in Berkeley County. So a lot of new people, new voters coming to the area. For those that are not familiar with you, just quickly tell us, who is Brian Adams?
Well, I've been involved in law enforcement in the area for 23 years. I grew up here in Berkeley County inside Goose Creek. My wife, I graduated from Stratford along with my wife, who I met in high school. We have 4 children that attend there. I have throughout my law enforcement career, I've been involved in several different areas: investigation, persons, and property. I've also been involved in special operations, and I've been to several commander leadership counseling schools, and I have also been fortunate enough to be a drug commander instructor for the state of South Carolina.
So presently, though, you are with North Charleston Police, is that correct?
That is correct. I've been there 20 years. I've worked my way up to the rank of lieutenant.
Okay, so a lieutenant in the North Charleston Police Department. Of course, Berkeley County Sheriff's Department and North Charleston Police have to be on the same page on a number of issues, work in tandem on so many things. Of course, the unfortunate Walter Scott incident bringing up the subject of a whole host of things, but body cameras. What are your thoughts on the whole prospect of officers being equipped with the body cameras?
Well, I'm for them. I think they're a very important aspect for law enforcement coming up in the future. It's important that when we decide to do this and how we're going to do it, that we protect the rights of everybody. And I know there's going to be some test departments throughout the state that are going to be doing it, and they're putting in place FOIA, Information for Freedom of Information Act, to protect those so people cannot get things that have been recorded. It'll be in place to protect them.
Well, I know the leaders of many departments around the state, they're concerned with a whole host of issues regarding the body cameras. It seems like, though, the biggest of which is the funding. You know, the things aren't cheap, and storing the information is even more expensive. Any thoughts on how you're going to pay for them?
Absolutely, because that's going to be the toughest thing. It's going to be the storage. It's not really going to be the cost of the cameras. It's how long are we going to store it, and where are we going to store it, and how much information we're going to store. So that's going to be the big cost of it. And where it's going to come from, we're going to have to work with council and see exactly where we're going to get the funding from. We got to get cameras in cars first. There's only 8 cars inside Berkeley County that got cameras and audio equipment in them now. So these are things we have to look at in the future so we can get the cameras in places to protect all of the citizens we deal with and protecting us.
You've been with the North Charleston Police Department for a number of years, as you've just said. Why do you want to be sheriff of the Berkeley County Department?
Well, I've started this journey about 2.5 years ago. I have a lot of friends that work at Berkeley County, and looking at some things, I started filling in some information, doing some filing through the Freedom of Information Act, getting some reports in, looking at the command staff there at the time that forgot how to provide a service to those inside the county. And I started seeing that on the outside looking in. So at that time I said, well, let me start looking at some things. So I looked at that, their equipment, the personnel issues, and the waste of money. So I started looking at that, and I started getting some information, and I realized at that time, I said, you know what, I can make a difference, and I need to get out there and start pushing my issue and pushing my message about getting out back into the communities, getting more deputies on the road, and start providing that service.
All right, very good, very good. You know, there are a lot of challenges facing so many police departments these days with the funding issues and staffing and a variety of other things, and just making certain crimes or certain issues a priority. What do you think are the biggest challenges that will face a Berkeley County sheriff as they come into the department? Unfortunately, the situation with Wayne DeWitt, no matter how you feel about the man, from a personal standpoint, you hate to see anybody go through that. The man's career virtually imploded with his unfortunate arrest back on December 28th, and which has resulted in this special election, the reason that we're talking today. But
right.
As you step into the office, what do you see as the biggest challenge facing the new sheriff?
Well, the biggest challenge, I think, is, like I said, we need to get more deputies on the road and start providing the service. So one of the biggest challenges I think is going to be is to get those deputies on the road. The organization right now is top-heavy. So I want to take a lot of administrative positions, restructure them, pushing them back to the road so we can start serving. It would not be a challenge, or it would not be a strain on the budget. There's positions already. There's got the equipment, the training, the personnel. So let's move them back to the road and start providing that service. Then we need to get back into the communities and start working with the community leaders and civic leaders, find out what they need, because every community is going to be different around the county, and they can tell us what they need, and then we can start helping them get those areas taken care of. So those are the two main things I want to start doing, getting more deputies on the road and start working with the communities and building that relationship, and then we can start looking at waste and cutting that so we can start funneling money back into where it's needed throughout the sheriff's office.
All right, Mr. Adams, we've got about 30 seconds here before we need to go to a break. If you have time, sir, I'd love to have you stand through the break and talk to us on the other side of the news at the bottom of the hour. Do you have a minute to chat with us a little longer?
I sure do.
All right, well, that's very kind of you. We'll be rejoining candidate for sheriff, GOP candidate for sheriff, Brian Adams here after a short break with South Carolina Radio Network News. Got some other topics to touch on, so we hope you'll stand by. Good morning. With sunshine and 66 degrees, it's 8:29.
And now, back to the morning report with Jay Harper on WQSC, AM 1340 and AM 950. The Voice.
It's a sunny start to our work week on this Monday, May 4th. 70 degrees now. Welcome back. The Morning Report. Jay Harper, my name. We're fortunate enough that Mr. Adams has been kind enough to stay with us through the break here this morning and continue to chat with us. Of course, we're talking about North Charleston Police Lieutenant Brian Adams, candidate for the GOP side of things in the Berkeley County Sheriff's race. The runoff with Dwayne Lewis tomorrow. Polls open at 7, close at 7. Mr. Adams, thank you again for hanging with us through that. I know what seems like a long break when you're on hold on the phone there.
Not a problem at all.
Hey, man, because we know it's a busy time. I'm sure you've got votes to go out there and get when you hang up with us here this morning.
Absolutely. We hit the ground running.
Yes, sir. 8:36 on the Morning Report. You know, as I sit here and cover the news here every day on The Voice, inevitably, whenever I'm reporting various stories, the crime issues, not just in Berkeley County, but everywhere, oftentimes come back to drugs. Drugs seem to be the culprit for much, if not most, of the crime across the country, much less here. We're no exception here from any social status or what have you. It doesn't matter. Drugs are everywhere. What do you see if elected Berkeley County Sheriff? What is your plan to just deal with this horrific drug problem that seems to permeate everywhere?
Well, it does, and it leads to a lot of other crimes as well, between burglaries and thefts and just all these other things. And the good thing is, my career, 18 years of my career, has been in specialized areas with dealing with narcotics and street crime units. The first thing we need to do is we need to get more deputies on the road to start responding and answering these calls. Start building those relationships, because what that does is once we get into a community, the community leaders then will start telling us, listen, watch that house down there. That's where the activity is coming from. They continue to steal from here. The copper gets stolen from here. So we'll get all our information from the civic leaders and the groups, and it'll go to patrol. Then what will happen is patrol then will start relaying that information into the narcotics units, and then they can start building their cases up to go after these organizations that have built their lives inside these communities and that's what drains those communities. That's what brings them down. Then they can start removing that element from those communities. But that's the first step. We have to get more deputies in. The backbone of every law enforcement department across this country is your patrol and those road units first.
Now, this particular race, up until here recently, was fairly civil. It does seem, though, that here, and I guess that's not to be totally unexpected as you get down to the wire in a closely fought race, but your opponent has received the endorsements of a number of former candidates for the GOP nomination. And I tell you, there have been some threats of lawsuits and what have you over how you filled out an affidavit or something along those lines. I mean,
right.
Number one, what do you make of all these endorsements, and does it almost seem personal?
Well, I don't worry about it, to tell you the truth. I know what I'm doing. I know what my team's out there doing. I want them to get out and make contact with the communities, and I'm not concerned about the endorsements. At the end of the day, the big thing, the difference with me is I knew I had a plan. I had a new direction I wanted the sheriff's office to go in, and I think they might have saw that plan, and that is the reason why they're worried about my direction or plan. They didn't see I want to get back into the communities and start. The structure of the sheriff's office is top-heavy. I want to get a lot of those positions administratively and push them back to the road and start working with the communities. So I think maybe that was it. I'm not quite sure what the reasoning is. So I just moved forward. Everything we're getting when we're going out and talking to people has been positive. It's been great.
Recently there was one particular ex-candidate. There's a Fitz News story alleging that this former candidate met with you and that he was offered a position in the sheriff's department if perhaps you would have this candidate drop out of the race. What's your response to that?
Listen, first of all, Fitz News, I don't pay any attention to it. Second of all, I met with several different candidates. There's always meetings going on. I actually had other candidates tell me they were going to endorse me after the primary, and we just moved on. I didn't worry about it. And I did sit down with them. I sat down with several of them, and the majority of our conversation was about how his campaign manager was taking a lot of his money. And I gave him some advice on how to handle those situations. So our conversation was all over the place. And I just think this is another way to muddy the water, and I'm really kind of ignoring it and just moving on.
Well, Mr. Adams, again, we've only got, you got basically a day here to raise up some more support. If, in fact, you are the Republican nominee going up against Mr. Smalls in the general election on June the 9th, will the focus of your campaign change any when you go up in the general election? What are your thoughts about going forward from a campaign strategy?
No, I'll just keep moving forward. The same direction. I want to get back out there and meet everybody again, re-energize the base, let them know what direction I want to go in, pick up some new support, tell them what we're wanting to do to get back out and start serving the county.
Well, sir, again, we know you're very, very busy, and we appreciate your kind of manning up and coming on the air with us this morning in light of some of the mud that's being thrown out there here at the last minute. So, sir, we appreciate your time very much.
Not a problem at all. I appreciate the opportunity to come out and speak with everybody.
Well, and again, if you are, in fact, the nominee, we hope to have you back on our airwaves again here before that general election. Hopefully you'll join us for that.
I'd love to. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you for joining us.